to you.
Well, thank you all. This is an exciting time. It does feel like spring and we're getting back to our new normal, but we are scared in public health right now because we are seeing the resumption of events that have increased risk of COVID-19 transmission that can further lengthen our stay in the orange tier. What we've seen across the past couple of weeks is, and the reason why we did not move forward into the yellow tier, is we're seeing an increase of COVID-19 transmission, primarily among unvaccinated individuals. And what we see in moving forward with the school events, as we are looking at promotional events, is that this is the largest cohort or group or reservoir, if you want the fancy public health word, of unvaccinated adolescents in our community are among middle school and high school students. So our greatest risk of case transmission is the gathering of these groups. And we know that we have now 70% of the 16 to 17-year-olds vaccinated. We are anticipating an announcement as early as Wednesday of next week that the CDC will be approving vaccination of the 12 to 15-year-olds. But even if they start getting vaccinated, they are still considered unvaccinated because it takes 2 doses and 2 weeks after that second dose. So only a few of our high school seniors and juniors will actually be fully vaccinated before the end of the school year, even though they've started their many have started their vaccine series. So we have very specific guidance from the state. The state has developed this guidance in order to reduce the risk of COVID-19 activity in these school-sponsored and private events. And our expectation in public health is that every event will follow those the guidance that's been delivered. We've also developed an FAQ around private events. We know that some of you cross, there's graduation guidance, there's private events guidance. None of the events that you would be hosting would be considered gatherings, which are the least restrictive. Minimally, they would be a private event where we are expecting everyone to maintain 6 feet distancing. It doesn't even matter if they've been in a classroom 3 feet apart in the desk. It's still 6 feet away from each other. The only unit that's allowed to stay together is a true household unit, and that unit still needs to maintain 6 feet distancing. And you need to know exactly who's coming and having an RSVP list. So we are strongly encouraging everyone to review the private events guidance. And again, what we are seeking to avoid are clusters and outbreaks that will further delay our return to yellow, which will be the greatest easing of restrictions. And then lastly, the world is going to change on June 15th. We're preparing on our side, but there will be significant easings of restrictions statewide on June 15th, and that's something that we're readying for. But even when those restrictions ease, we are going to be cautioning our community that in these reservoirs for COVID activity, which is these unvaccinated adolescents, especially, that it's the highest risk, which is why no prom dancing, unless you can guarantee that students are dancing 6 feet apart from each other and not mingling. That is not what is acceptable. So we just want to be here. We have an amazing nurse, Linda Metz, who fields a lot of awesome questions, and a super shout out to her because this is Nurses Weeks and our school nurses have been working really hard to support you guys in having these events. So we're both excited about them, but want to have a very strong caution and really urge you not to find the gray. There's black and white guidance here because we want to make sure that these do not become events with COVID transmission potential. And then also just to be really aware, it's often the pre and post events that will have the highest risk of COVID activity because they're not going to be in a supervised setting. So you're basically setting up it's a setup for the pre and post events that will have the highest risk for COVID-19 activity. Even if you do your best of creating a very supervised structured environment, you're also creating the potential for COVID-19 spread in those pre and post activities. So I'll shut up now. And thank you all for all you've done all year. I'm writing a letter to our school nurses, and one of my proudest achievements, and my proudest achievement of this pandemic response is the reopening of schools. And I know we wouldn't have been here without all of you. And you should just be so proud. We stand ahead of this nation, ahead of many countries, and it's because we stood together and really were focused on kids. And we want kids to have fun, but we want it to be safer. So there you go.
So Lisa, I'm going to go right to the chat here. And so this is a question that's about, let me go back up, that's about adults. So let me just say, I have a question. Okay. I want to bring my employees together. They're all fully vaccinated. Can we have about 100 or so meet on the campus for a gathering, unmasked and not distanced? Everyone's fully vaccinated.
There's in our private event guidance, if you follow a private event, you can have up to 50 persons outdoors if you can prove they are all fully vaccinated and they do not need to wear a mask if they are all fully vaccinated.
Okay.
The only caution to that is that if it's considered an occupational event, and this is where I would consult with your HR and your legal team, you're still under Cal OSHA. So that's the space that you're trying to navigate is you're offering a private event, but if it's a work event, it could still be considered a work environment. So just to review, encouraging you to review your decisions with HR and any legal counsel you
So
have.
the answer to that one, Gail, is no, right? I mean, I think is the best way to say it. Sorry, or the most clear way to say it. Okay, next question. We have a senior event planned where only students and staff allowed are vaccinated, or we have a testing system planned at the school. Mike Casper, would you mind giving a little more detail just so Dr.
Yes, so we have a plan in place for our senior class where it's only San Marin seniors are allowed, no dates, no outside people. And the plan is, and we do have a number of seniors that when they heard about the vaccinations, they ran out right away to start the vaccination process. And so our system would be, and it's outdoors, it's in the main quad in front of our new Performing Arts Center. And it is either you show proof of vaccination or our athletic trainer has a system in place to provide testing for students prior to the event if they wanted to attend. And obviously, you know, proof of the negative test through the school would be a grounds for admission.
Mike, can I ask just a couple questions?
Sure.
How many seniors are there?
Well, there's like 200, there's like 250, but we would expect half of that probably.
Okay. And then would they be 6 foot distance and fully masked?
Yeah, I mean, we would follow the guidance of Marin County Public Health and whatever the guidance would be. Yeah, it would be hard. I guess they could do the Macarena or the YMCA.
Yes, that's my favorite, YMCA.
Or the hoedown throwdown, but I mean, we'd be showing it so they don't get near each other or anything. But that would be, you know, we're very, very cognizant of the guidance and the safety.
Lisa answer. I just want to get the frame. Okay, Lisa.
So I would say yes, but I would really, again, have strong messaging to students and families before and after, because that's where they're going to mix with unvaccinated kids. And so just really encourage parents that to follow the private gatherings guidance in any pre and post activity. But it sounds like what you're describing on event. I'm just going to put it in my favorite CDPH, the dimmer, just so you know, depending on the date of the event, if we're in yellow, you have capacity differences when it's outdoors.
I think it's June 5th. I think that's the actual date.
We could, I mean, we better be yellow by June 5th. So if we're yellow by June 5th for a private event, you can have a maximum of 200 folks outdoors.
Okay, so key, Mike, the 6 foot distance wearing masks, right?
So
okay.
So wait, Mary Jane, so could I just, so 6 foot distance and they have to wear masks outside even if they're fully vaccinated?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you were to reduce it to 50.
Oh, and that's for yellow?
No, that's for any, that's for any right now. That's our guidance. You would have to reduce it to 50. Everyone has to be fully vaccinated and it would have to be outdoors. But no, and then you can't have 50 and then have another 50 come in later. You have to have at least 2 hours between any events if you broke it into smaller numbers. Okay. So I just can keep it at the safest is keeping it outdoors and keeping everyone masked and trying to keep everyone distanced, which will be, and having it staffed to that, knowing that you'll need to have more staff and volunteers and making sure you can maintain the capacity at 200 if all the staff are fully vaccinated and volunteers are fully vaccinated, it won't count towards your total occupancy.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sorry, excuse me. I have a question just because we're talking about Mike's event. Mike, I was talking to Nisha and she said you guys were doing food trucks or thinking about doing food trucks. And so my question to you, Lisa, is that okay to have?
Yes, as long they have food trucks are under license under environmental health services, and they have specific they should be following specific requirements too. They have their own site specific protection plan, and you just again need to make sure when you're setting up your location that you might need monitors to make sure kids aren't moving and gathering at the food truck. They still need to maintain 6 feet distancing from each other as they're lining up for food from the food truck.
Okay. And so the max for a private event, which is what it sounds like most of our senior events, like we're doing a senior movie night or we want to, is 50. You're not going to be going over 50 in
No, it's too. So the private event is the 50 is a special condition. So I know this is a little bit confusing. We followed an LA County guidance where if there's a very small event, a 50-person event where everyone is fully vaccinated outdoors, then it can be mask can be off. So that's a special. And I'm trying to try and find the FAQ. I hope it's been. I've asked multiple times for it to be posted, but at all the meetings I've gone to, I haven't been able to find the link yet. But I'll find that FAQ and we can share the FAQ. If I can't find it, we'll share it with you guys. The limits, if you go to the dimmer for private events, which most of you are going to fall under, outdoor max right now is 100 because we're in orange. As our earliest we'd be out of orange this time would be the 14th, I think is the new potential yellow day. And then we might, if we do hit yellow by the 14th of May, then we can go to a maximum of 200. But you remember, you have to make sure you know everyone that's attending. In case there is a case, we would be doing case investigation.
I think it's the 18th, Lisa.
Oh, thanks, Dr. McCurdy.
Yeah.
And that, sorry, one more question. That 200, that doesn't matter if it's vaccinated or not, or rapid tested or not. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right. Families are saying aunts and uncles are traveling in for graduation. So that means they are in our households. Does that argument hold? So people are saying my family's traveling here.
Yes.
Does the argument hold if they're coming?
But again, you're increasing your capacity. You need to make sure you have proof that they're fully vaccinated. So the more people you're inviting from that household, you may have to make sure you have the systems in place to confirm their vaccination status. And it's not by self-attestation. You have to have someone that is verifying that they saw that vaccination. I mentioned on the other call, we're going back to our county council to see what records can and should be maintained. We just think it needs to be someone that basically your public health liaison is reviewing all the submitted vaccination status and confirming it and putting a check on it. You do not need to maintain a copy of someone's vaccination status.
Okay, what are the guidelines for asking if students and volunteers are vaccinated and or required COVID testing?
You can ask. We've reviewed this multiple times with county council. We are going to do an extra review and provide, because we've heard some cities and towns have said that you can't ask. Our read as public health is all the guidance coming from the state is based on vaccinated or not vaccinated status. Our review of our authorities and the authorities of any vendor holder is you can check the vaccination status. It's just a new normal. Like you never could have imagined a year ago that you'd be showing your test results to Hawaiian Airlines or Southwest and people are happily showing their test results. We are not concerned about HIPAA or any other protected health information with someone visualizing your vaccination status. You can opt not to, and then you have to just stay within the capacity for unvaccinated. So it's what it's allowing you is just increased capacity by having more fully vaccinated groups.
Would an event that happened after the senior has graduated fall under a private events guideline?
Yeah, unless it's hosted by the school.
Yeah, so it wouldn't have, all right. We've been informed that parents are organizing an unofficial private prom at the local banquet facility. It's not school sanctioned. The school will not be associated with the event, but is this allowed?
If it's a private event, it's allowed. I would encourage anyone not to call it a school event or a school prom. And they are expected, we've met with all the venues, I'm sure not all of them, but we've been meeting with venue operators and caterers and those groups who are the private industry in Marin County. And they understand they are all expected to follow that guidance of showing vaccination status, not allowing dancing. I am 100% confident our school nurse and commerce teams will get calls when we find out that they're behaving either differently than expected, and we'll also get calls when we have the first positive cases. So this is a risk. It's a risk. It's a risky time over these next 2 months because of vaccination status. It would be very different in July. So I would strongly recommend, if there's going to be private events with unvaccinated students, if time is not an issue, to delay it until you can have a fully vaccinated group.
Mhm. What's the stance? Well, this is sort of the same. Senior breakfast. Is there a possibility of a prepackaged foods? What makes it safe? You know, prepackaged as opposed to going through a line or serving people.
Yeah, you're just expected, it depends on the venue you're at, whether if it's at a restaurant, you need to follow all of the restaurant guidance and guidance with for special events, where at this point, remember, I think it's only households can sit with each other at tables. So you can't just take you can't have a round table of students like you used to, right? And you have a student sitting around a round table. That's not possible at this point. It's still, I think, household based in the restaurant. So you, in the guidance document we've shared, and again, we'll share it with this group just so you can have it. It links to, depends where you're hosting it, you have to follow multiple rules. And so get the most detailed oriented person in your office to review the guidance and make sure that you're following it. And again, it's just in your best interest. You're gathering groups of unvaccinated individuals when we are having, we're having blips in activity. And so that's just, it's really for all of our best interests and to avoid case contact investigations and case identification. That's the next step. I anticipate, and you need to be prepared, there will be a positive case at one of these events like that. We're 100% prepared for that because we're bringing together an unvaccinated group, and we know that COVID-19 is still circulating in our community. So be prepared, have your team also ready for when they're tired after hosting an event that we're going to be contacting you within a couple of days. There might be a positive case.
Mhm, mhm. So Lisa, okay, let me just see. Oh, so the grab and go event, breakfast, grab and go, students distance around campus to eat, masked and distance. So that's
Yes.
where that works.
Yeah, and just imagine, we had a gathering last night, and it was interesting watching us naturally move. We had around 20 of us, and everyone just naturally moved into a circle 6 feet apart. So that's what people want to be able to see each other and talk to each other. So just think conceptually about the space and design. What's the way that you can maximize, space utilization while maximizing 6 feet distancing, knowing that what people want to do, they want to see each other and talk. And that will minimize, and using the X tapes like you've gotten used to. What I've seen though is the circle, when you're looking at groups, they want to be able to see each other. So what we're used to in the school setting of just lining people up, that's not going to be, that you're going to be fighting against the nature of people wanting to see each other. So you can think of how can you create like circles or something like that, so kids can mingle and talk and see each other.
Mhm.
Musical chairs, a new version of musical chairs.
Right. Lisa, there's 37 people on this call, and we can't believe we weren't part of the 20 people that you gathered. Why weren't we invited to your party?
A secret party.
Yeah. Okay, let me just see if there's anything else that I can see. How about this? Would an event that happened out, oh yeah, we already did that. No, sorry. Cadence, what's testing while in orange or yellow? Is there a cadence difference?
For an event?
No, just in general for testing.
Oh, we don't recommend testing, period. There are schools that are testing athletes, and there are schools that are doing student testing. If you're going to test, it should be at a cadence. If you're going to test to try and find cases, it should be at least once a week. So but again, the probability of finding cases when we're in this low case rate is lower. So But we do know that some athletes are testing. Anything about that, Dr. McCurdy or Linda, based on your awareness of testing happening?
There's a fair amount of variability out there. I don't think I really have anything to add beyond that. Linda, do you?
Yeah, some of the schools are testing, just especially some of the private schools. They're continuing to test the students, and then teams. All the indoor sports are testing prior to games.
Okay. Let me see, anything?
You're muted, Mary Jane.
Oh. Let's go. Come on, everybody. Young man. There's no need to feel down. I said, young man, put yourself off the ground. Let's go, boys. You're in a new town. There's no need to be unhappy. There's a place you can go. I said, young man, when you're short on your dough, you can stand. I'm not sure you'll mind when you okay, here we go. It's hard to stay at the YMCA. It's hard to stay at the YMCA. They have everything. Okay, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Friday. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
I'll send the event.
You guys that are left, we just got a new guidance from the state that I just posted into the chat on gatherings and guidance for the school.
Fabulous. Thanks, Linda. Bye, everybody. Have a great week.
Hey, Linda, can you repost it? Because I don't see it in the chat.
Linda, we don't see it in the chat. Can you repost? Linda?
You're in the middle of her
She's
dance.
on it. She's so on it.
Okay.
Linda, if you want to email it to Melina and Michelle, we can blast it out to everybody that was on the call.
I will email it to Melina and she can get it to you. Sandra
Okay.
just sent it to us from the state meeting.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good weekend, everyone.
You too. Happy Mother's Day.